unlocking the secret dimension that's already creating your future. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung once revealed that the invisible forces shaping your destiny aren't out there, but within you. Every thought, emotion, and unspoken belief quietly constructs the world you wake up to each morning. In this episode of Spiritual Wisdom, we're going to uncover the secret dimension already designing your future, the hidden realm of the subconscious. As you listen, ask yourself, are you the author of your destiny or a passenger of your programming? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's explore together how awareness can transform fate into freedom. 1. Reality is multidimensional and selectable. Reality is not something solid or static. It is a living, breathing field of energy that bends and reshapes itself in response to consciousness. According to Carl Jung, what we call fate is often just the unfolding of the unconscious mind through symbols and experiences until we awaken enough to recognize that we've been participating in its creation all along. You are not manifesting something new. You are selecting from infinite timelines that already exist in the fourth dimension, where past, present, and future coexist simultaneously. Every possible version of your life, every success, every loss, every love, every transformation already exists in this vast web of energy. The key lies in where your awareness settles. Your consciousness is the selector, the divine mechanism that determines which version of reality you step into. When you begin to awaken spiritually, you understand that reality is multidimensional and selectable. Each thought, emotion, and belief acts like a frequency tuner. Whatever you focus on with enough energy becomes the vibrational doorway to a specific timeline. The fourth dimension isn't somewhere far away. It's the invisible field you move through every moment of your existence. The more you align your inner world with clarity, love, and intention, the more your external world rearranges to mirror that inner state. Jung called this mysterious interplay between mind and matter synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that occur when your inner frequency matches an outer event in perfect harmony. They are not random. They are signals that you are moving through the precise timeline your soul has selected. You do not have to struggle to create your future. You only need to align with it. Manifestation becomes effortless when you understand that you are not commanding the universe, but cooperating with it. The fourth dimension responds not to your words, but to your vibration. When you dwell in anxiety, you tune into the dimension of chaos. When you dwell in peace, you step into the timeline of order. It is not magic, it is resonance. Energy flows where attention goes, and attention is the sacred tool that moves you across dimensions. In the stillness of your awareness, you become the architect of time itself, selecting the reality that matches your consciousness like a musician selecting a note on a cosmic instrument. The secret lies in awareness. Awareness is the bridge between possibility and experience. When you watch your thoughts without judgment, when you replace fear with trust, when you hold gratitude instead of resentment, you are quietly changing the coordinates of your reality. Jung believed that once the unconscious becomes conscious, life ceases to feel accidental. It becomes intentional. Each moment of mindfulness refines the signal you send into the quantum field. The universe does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you are being. Your emotions, your expectations, Your silent assumptions are all commands written in the language of energy, instructing reality which version of the future to reveal. To awaken spiritually is to realize that destiny is not a fixed script, but a living collaboration between your soul and the universe. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, compassion over judgment, purpose over fear, you shift timelines. You are no longer pushed around by external events because you begin to sense the deeper order moving beneath them. The past, present, and future are not separate lines. They are layers of the same infinite moment, accessible through the vibration of your being. In this understanding, spirituality becomes less about escaping the world and more about mastering your resonance within it. You begin to live consciously, knowing that each thought is a brushstroke on the canvas of eternity, and every feeling is a signature shaping the dimension you step into next. Do you feel it too? The pull of that invisible dimension shaping everything ahead of you? If you believe reality is truly multidimensional and that your consciousness can choose the timeline you live in, affirm it right now in the comments. I am aligned with the reality I choose to create. 2. The mind is the projector, not the screen. Humanity has long been deceived by the illusion that the outer world determines the inner one, when in truth, the mind is not the screen, it is the projector. Carl Jung revealed that the psyche doesn't merely interpret reality, it generates it. Every emotion, thought, and vibration you hold inside becomes the light that casts your world into form. What you see outside is not reality itself, but a reflection of your inner consciousness, your beliefs, your energy, your frequency. When you awaken to this, spirituality stops being philosophy and becomes pure creation. You begin to see that your life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Everything you experience, the people you meet, the challenges you face, the opportunities that appear, is a mirror designed to show you the exact frequency you are emitting. If your inner state is dominated by fear, scarcity, or resentment, then life will echo those vibrations through rejection, loss, and endless struggle. But when your heart starts vibrating with love, peace, and gratitude, your reality rearranges itself to meet that new rhythm. The same world becomes softer, more aligned, more alive. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This truth unveils the hidden law behind spiritual growth. The idea that what we call destiny is merely the unconscious running the show. The repetitive patterns, the painful relationships, the disappointments that seem to follow you are not punishments from the universe. They are projections of what still needs healing within you. When you finally recognize that you are the creator, not the victim, your relationship with life changes completely. You stop reacting and start observing. You stop chasing and start aligning. Every judgment you cast reveals something unintegrated within yourself. Every emotional trigger points to a forgotten wound, asking for your awareness. The 3D world becomes your sacred classroom, not your prison. Through the eyes of spirituality, every difficulty becomes a mirror guiding you home. As your awareness expands, you stop trying to fix the screen and focus on adjusting the projector, the mind, the heart, the consciousness. You learn that peace is not found by controlling circumstances, but by mastering your inner frequency. When you elevate your thoughts, release the illusions of separation, and choose to act from love instead of fear, your entire energetic field shifts. The outside world begins to harmonize with your new vibration, and suddenly, what once felt impossible begins to flow naturally. Synchronicities appear, opportunities align, and life begins to feel like a reflection of your highest self. This is the dimension Jung hinted at as the meeting point of psychology and spirituality, where the soul realizes it has always been the architect of its own destiny. Every thought is a brushstroke on the canvas of existence. Every feeling programs the next scene of your unfolding story. Reality is fluid, responsive, and alive, shaped by the light of your consciousness. The mind is not meant to be a prisoner of circumstances, but a divine projector of infinite potential. When you understand this, you reclaim your creative authority. You begin to see that energy responds to awareness, that the outer world bends to the quality of your inner state, and that the film of your life changes the moment you choose to see differently. Spiritual growth, then, is not about escaping the world, but mastering the art of projection learning to radiate peace in chaos, to emit faith in uncertainty, and to hold love in the face of fear. Because the secret dimension that's already creating your future is not somewhere outside, it's within the consciousness that perceives it. 3. Time is an illusion. Consciousness is the key. Time is not what you think it is. What you call past, present, and future are not separate realities, but fluid perceptions of the same eternal consciousness moving through different frequencies. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And when you truly look within, you begin to see that time is merely a veil, a beautiful illusion projected by the human mind to make sense of existence. Consciousness, however, is not bound by that illusion. It stands beyond time, quietly shaping the path of your life long before you walk it. Every moment you experience has already existed as a potential within the vast field of your mind. You are not a traveler moving through time. Time is flowing through you, responding to the quality of your awareness. Imagine your consciousness as a projector and the world as the screen. The film that plays before you is not random. It is created by the frames of thought and emotion you hold within. From the fourth dimensional perspective, reality is not something that happens to you. It is something that emanates from you. Your outer world is the reflection of your inner vibration. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, Jung wrote. And this is the secret that spiritual wisdom has whispered for centuries. Your mind is the true architect of destiny. When you begin to observe your thoughts rather than be ruled by them, you step into the dimension where creation begins. In this higher state of awareness, every emotion, every belief, every word becomes an energy-shaping form. The unconscious mind does not differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. It only responds to the power of your focus. Fear, doubt, and limitation create one version of the future, while faith, gratitude, and purpose create another. This is not magic. It is consciousness in motion. When you shift your inner frequency, the universe adjusts its rhythm to match yours. You start noticing synchronicities, mysterious alignments, and signs that seem to guide your steps. Jung called them acts of creation in time, and they remind you that you are not separate from the cosmos. You are participating in its unfolding. Everything in your life right now is a mirror reflecting the energy you carry. If you wish to change your future, you must change the vibration of your present. The key is not to fight against time, but to awaken to your timeless nature. Once you understand that reality bends to awareness, not effort, you begin to see life differently. Time is no longer a ticking clock. It becomes a living mirror of consciousness, a tool for transformation. When your thoughts align with love, your reality expands. When they align with fear, it contracts. The path ahead is not fixed. It is fluid, waiting for you to choose the frequency from which you create. As spiritual wisdom teaches, the more you awaken, the less you chase. You stop trying to predict the future and start embodying it. You realize the version of you that has already succeeded, already healed, already become whole exists now, in another layer of consciousness. To access it, you must match its vibration. The illusion of time dissolves the moment you live fully in awareness, because in the field of the soul, everything is happening at once. The power that creates worlds lives inside your consciousness. When you awaken to that truth, the future stops being something you wait for. It becomes something you remember, something you shape through the energy of who you choose to be right now. If you feel this truth awakening something within you, declare it now. Time cannot control me. My consciousness shapes my destiny. I am aligned with the dimension creating my future. 4. Controlled imagination is the gateway. Controlled imagination is the hidden architecture of your destiny, the silent sculptor shaping your tomorrows long before they arrive. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That truth reveals why so many people feel trapped by circumstances they haven't yet learned that the mind is not a mirror reflecting reality, but a projector casting it. In spirituality and spiritual awakening, this is the key. Your outer world is not separate from you. It is molded by the inner pictures you persistently hold. Neville Goddard called this sacred process controlled imagination, the art of consciously entering that delicate state between waking and sleeping, the bridge where logic fades and the creative power of the subconscious awakens. It is here, in that calm in-between, that you can impress your desires upon the infinite, not by wishing or forcing, but by feeling them as already fulfilled. When you practice this art, you are not escaping reality, you are rewriting it. The universe listens not to your words, but to your emotional state, to the frequency of your belief. That is why Neville said, "Feeling is the secret. Thought alone cannot manifest. Only when thought is infused with conviction does it bend the field of reality." As you close your eyes and dwell in the emotion of having already received your desire, whether it's peace, love, or success, you begin to synchronize with the quantum fabric of existence. In that harmony, the outer world subtly rearranges itself to mirror your inner certainty. This is not fantasy, but divine science, where spirituality and psychology merge into one truth. The imagination is the language of creation. Carl Jung devoted his life to unveiling this mystery. To him, imagination was not idle dreaming, but communication with the deeper self, the archetypal realm that governs both psyche and matter. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes, he wrote. Spiritual awakening, then, is not about discovering something new. It's about realizing that the entire universe already lives within you. When you consciously feel the future as now, you awaken from the illusion of time itself. You stop waiting for miracles and become their source. You no longer chase life, you magnetize it. Every feeling becomes a seed planted in the soil of consciousness. And like a seed, it grows according to the belief that nurtures it. Controlled imagination is the act of watering those seeds with awareness. It is not about forcing results, but aligning your mind, emotions, and energy into one coherent vibration. When that inner unity is achieved, life flows effortlessly because you are no longer divided within yourself. Jung would call this the process of individuation, the merging of your conscious will with the vast intelligence of the unconscious, so that what you desire and what you are become the same thing. In that state, creation is inevitable. You move through life not as a seeker, but as a creator, quiet, calm, certain. Because once your imagination is disciplined and you're feeling aligned, the secret dimension that creates your future no longer lies outside of you. It breathes through you, shaping every moment in response to your inner vision, turning unseen thoughts into living form. That is the true alchemy of consciousness, the moment your spiritual awakening becomes your power to create worlds. 5. Desire is the engine of creation. Desire is not a flaw to suppress or a weakness to be ashamed of. It is the sacred mechanism through which consciousness creates and life expands. In the realm of spirituality and spiritual growth, desire acts as the divine fire that shapes destiny. It is the pulse of the universe flowing through your soul, calling you to become more, to express more, to reveal more of what already exists within you. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Desire is the voice of that unconscious force, the hidden blueprint of your higher self trying to reach your awareness. When you sustain a deep, authentic desire and give it your full attention, it reorganizes reality around you, like invisible hands sculpting the clay of experience to mirror the energy of your inner world. To desire something deeply means that, on a spiritual level, it already exists in another dimension of consciousness, waiting for you to align with it. Every possibility of your life is already alive within the field of potential, and desire is the bridge connecting your current state to that higher possibility. True desire does not come from lack or desperation, but from remembrance, the soul remembering what it has already chosen to experience. When you nurture this desire with focus, emotion, and faith, your vibration begins to synchronize with that unseen dimension. Suddenly, coincidences appear, opportunities unfold, and people cross your path as reflections of that inner resonance. This is not coincidence. It is consciousness arranging itself according to your most persistent emotional frequency. Desire, however, is also a test of patience and surrender. Many abandon their deepest callings because they confuse delay with denial. They believe the universe has ignored their prayers, when in truth, life is aligning everything in perfect order, refining both the vision and the vessel. Jung taught that the outer world mirrors the inner psyche. When progress seems slow, it is not because the world is against you. It is because your inner self is still expanding to match the magnitude of what you asked for. Desire exposes your hidden fears and attachments, revealing where your soul still doubts its own worthiness. This is why every longing is an invitation to grow, to purify your intentions until they no longer come from ego, but from the divine spark within. When you channel your desire through awareness instead of craving, it becomes prayer. It becomes a sacred dialogue between you and the universe. Each desire is a message from your higher self saying, "This is the direction of your evolution." The energy you feel when you long for something is not emptiness. It is the vibration of your future self calling you forward. Therefore, your task is not to chase the desire, but to embody it, to live as though it has already taken form. You must think, speak, and act from that fulfilled state, not as fantasy, but as alignment. The universe, being a perfect mirror, reflects the state of your consciousness. When you radiate gratitude, certainty, and peace, reality bends to that frequency. As within, so without. This universal truth means that creation begins not with action, but with belief. Desire is the seed of every miracle. When held with faith and nourished with patience, it blooms into form through the soil of time. You are not here to suppress your desires, but to refine them into instruments of creation. Each authentic longing is an aspect of divine will expressing itself through you. When you understand this, you stop doubting the process and start flowing with it. You realize that every desire you hold with love and awareness is not something separate from you. It is a fragment of destiny waiting to return home. And as you align your consciousness with that truth, you step into your creative power, transforming desire into divine manifestation and awakening to the profound realization that life itself is your masterpiece, shaped by the fire of your own becoming. If this message has sparked something within you, let us know in the comments by writing, "Desire creates my reality." Your words carry power, and your engagement helps us share more spiritual wisdom with the world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom so you won't miss the next revelation waiting for you. 6. The universe is a perfect mirror. Everything unfolding in your life is not a divine punishment or random luck. It is the mirror of your consciousness, perfectly reflecting what lives inside you. The universe is not a judge. It is a mirror that simply returns what you project through your thoughts, emotions, and energy. When your inner world is chaotic, the reflection will appear chaotic. When your heart finds harmony, the reflection becomes serene. This is the foundation of spiritual wisdom. And as Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Life does not happen to you. It happens from you. Every fear you nurture, every belief you repeat, every image you hold in your mind writes the invisible code that reality obeys. Imagine your mind as a projector and the universe as the screen. You cannot change the movie by attacking the screen. You must change the film inside the projector. If you live in resentment, the field amplifies more reasons to resent. If you live in gratitude, it multiplies blessings. The quantum field, what mystics call the all, responds to vibration, not words. It does not judge. It does not punish. It simply echoes. When you think thoughts of lack, life reflects scarcity. When you embody abundance, life brings opportunities that align with your frequency. What you send out emotionally is what you receive experientially. Carl Jung reminded us, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. To awaken means to stop begging the mirror to change and start shifting the expression you wear before it. When you breathe deeply and create safety within, the external world mirrors that calm. When you carry tension and fear, life reflects resistance. So practice serenity, practice honesty. Speak kindly to yourself. Each act of integrity and awareness reshapes the reflection. The universe listens not to your words, but to the energy beneath them. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are the artist painting reality with each emotional brushstroke. The key is consistency. You cannot expect harmony from chaos of mind. To shift your future, shift your daily emotional state. Wake up and choose one feeling to inhabit peace, joy, confidence, and practice it until it becomes natural. Speak to life as if it already supports you, because it does. When pain arises, instead of saying, "I knew it," say, "This is feedback, not fate." Every obstacle is a message from the mirror, guiding you to refine your inner signal. Bless your lessons, not your fears. Release old stories that say you are not enough and replace them with truth. You are a living participant in the creative dialogue of existence. Rumi once said, "What you seek is seeking you, but it cannot find you until you align with its frequency." When you embody love, love recognizes you. When you live from worthiness, opportunities flow like rivers toward the sea of your becoming. Try it today. Choose one intention, hold it in your heart with calm certainty, act on it gently, and watch how the world rearranges itself around your new vibration. Reality is not fixed. It's fluid, sensitive, responsive. It listens to your inner tone. So speak clearly, love deeply, and live consciously, for the universe is always listening, always mirroring, always waiting for you to remember that creation begins within. 7. The technique for accessing the fourth dimension. The process of unlocking the fourth dimension begins with the precision of your desire. You cannot approach creation vaguely. The universe responds to clarity. When you define exactly what you want, you give your subconscious a destination to move toward. Most people never receive what they truly want because they never decide what that truly is. They drift between conflicting wishes. But when you commit to one clear desire, your inner world begins to organize around it. In spirituality, this moment of decision is sacred. It is when your conscious will speaks to the divine intelligence within you and declares, "This is what I am ready to experience." Once your desire is defined, you move into the next phase, constructing an inner scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. The scene must feel natural, believable, and emotionally satisfying. You are not forcing reality. You are embodying the vibration of completion. Carl Jung often said that whatever you hold in your imagination will eventually manifest in your reality. And this truth reflects the foundation of all spiritual awakening. The subconscious accepts emotional conviction, not external evidence. Therefore, when you imagine a scene where your desire has already come true, you are programming your inner world to match the outer one that must follow. This is why great spiritual teachers insist on living in the end, not merely hoping for it, because creation begins from being, not from wanting. The third step is to enter the subtle state between wakefulness and sleep, where your conscious mind quiets and the subconscious becomes highly receptive. This liminal state, often called the hypnagogic state, is the gateway between dimensions, the meeting point of thought and manifestation. In that stillness, your critical mind softens, and every feeling, image, or assumption is absorbed deeply into your psyche. This is where the fourth dimension of creation truly operates, for it is not a place in space, but a frequency of consciousness. The mind that knows how to rest consciously here wields the same creative force that shapes galaxies. Jung described this as the realm of the collective unconscious, where symbols, archetypes, and inner images connect to the structure of reality itself. Finally, you must enter the imagined scene and feel it real. Do not stand apart from it as a watcher steps inside it as a participant. Feel the weight of your body in that new reality, the warmth of the air, the joy of fulfillment, the peace of completion. Every sensory detail becomes an affirmation that your desire already exists. As you persist in this feeling and drift into sleep, the scene imprints itself upon your subconscious mind, which begins to rearrange your outer world to match your inner one. This is the silent law of creation. What you feel as true in your inner dimension will crystallize in time and space. The longer you sustain that feeling, the faster your reality conforms. In spirituality, this practice represents the merging of consciousness and energy, the masculine principle of intention meeting the feminine principle of imagination. It is the alchemy of thought into matter. The subconscious, like fertile soil, does not question the seed you plant. It simply grows whatever emotion and belief you sustain. Therefore, feed it not with fear or doubt, but with conviction and love. This is the essence of spiritual awakening, realizing that the outer world is a mirror of the inner one. The fourth dimension is not somewhere out there. It is the unseen layer of consciousness shaping your tomorrows from the vibration you hold today. Each night, as you enter this sacred practice, remember that you are not escaping reality. You are authoring it, guided by the timeless wisdom of your own higher mind. If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe for more wisdom on how desire fuels creation and how you can access the higher dimensions of consciousness. Your journey to mastering the unseen starts here. 8. Conscious creation requires discipline and responsibility. The true measure of spirituality is not found in moments of ease, but in your ability to hold inner conviction when everything outside contradicts it. This is where conscious creation truly begins. Every moment of your life presents a dimensional crossroads. One path keeps you trapped in the past, reacting to what already exists. The other opens to a higher future, created from the state of consciousness you choose to embody now. When you react to appearances, you give power to the illusion of limitation. But when you respond from faith, from the awareness that life is shaped by unseen spiritual laws, you begin to move from victimhood to mastery. This is the spiritual discipline that Carl Jung hinted at when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." To create consciously is to live with awareness of this invisible mechanism. The truth that your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are not passive. They are energetic instructions to the universe. Every emotion you sustain becomes a signal. Every belief you cling to becomes a magnet that attracts experiences matching its frequency. Spiritual growth, therefore, is not merely about positive thinking, but about emotional mastery learning to remain inwardly consistent even when outer circumstances waver. This inner steadiness is what separates those who drift through life from those who awaken to it. To choose your future freely is a sacred responsibility, for freedom without discipline leads to confusion. Conscious creation asks you to cultivate mental clarity emotional coherence, and unwavering faith that reality responds to vibration, not circumstance. When the world challenges you, when outcomes seem delayed, that is the universe testing the strength of your inner conviction. The spiritually mature do not chase appearances they create from alignment. They understand that the outer world is only a mirror, reflecting the state of their inner being. Every reaction either reinforces an old pattern or activates a new potential. The wise one learns to pause before responding, to breathe, and to choose the state of consciousness they wish to sustain. Over time, this awareness becomes second nature, and life begins to rearrange itself to match the frequency of that chosen state. Discipline, then, is not punishment, it is devotion. It is the daily act of remembering that you are the sculptor of energy, not the sculpture itself. Spirituality becomes your compass, guiding you to act not from fear, but from faith, not from confusion, but from clarity. Faith, in this sense, is not blind hope. It is the deep knowing that what you align with inwardly must eventually take shape outwardly. And so, you remain patient, consistent, and grateful, understanding that reality is slower than thought, but obedient to it. The future is not written in stone. It is sculpted in consciousness. When you choose love instead of resistance, when you nurture inner peace instead of chaos, when you hold steady in faith instead of surrendering to fear, you begin to unlock the secret dimension that has always been creating your life. The unseen becomes visible, the impossible becomes natural, and spirituality transforms from an idea into a living experience. Conscious creation, at its essence, is about responsibility, the willingness to guard your thoughts, refine your emotions, and trust the intelligence of life unfolding through you. And in that sacred alignment between awareness and reality, you realize that your destiny was never waiting for you to find it. It was waiting for you to awaken to it. And as we close this journey through the secret dimension shaping your future, remember what Carl Jung once said: "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The truth is, your future isn't waiting to be created. It's already unfolding through the patterns of your thoughts, emotions, and choices today. So stay aware, stay present, and let your inner wisdom be the architect of what's to come. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos on Jungian psychology, consciousness, and spiritual awakening. Your future self will thank you for it. How to become emotionally invincible. Carl Jung's silent weapon. He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens. Carl Jung once said these timeless words to remind us that true strength isn't about suppressing emotions, but mastering them. In a world that constantly tests your patience, peace, and purpose, emotional invincibility is not a luxury, it's a necessity. So as you listen today, ask yourself, how much power do you give away to your emotions, and how much do you reclaim? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because here on Spiritual Wisdom, we grow together, transforming pain into strength and awareness into peace. 1. The 90-second rule. Anger is a choice. Anger is not a flaw. It is not a failure. It is a message raw, loud, and honest. It comes from the rejected corners of your being, from the shadow you've been taught to hide. The very thing you were told makes you unlovable. Your needs, your boundaries, your voice is now rising up to be heard. Anger is not trying to ruin your peace. It's trying to teach you where it was never safe to feel. When you get triggered, when your heart pounds and your jaw tightens, it's not about the person or the comment. It's about what was never healed, what was never seen. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is not about blame. This is about revelation. Your anger reveals what still aches inside you. Every spike of emotion is an invitation. It says, "Look here. Look at what still needs compassion. Look at the little version of you that didn't get to speak. Look at the boundary you keep letting others cross." When you treat anger as a sacred signal instead of a shameful flaw, you start healing from within. You stop reacting blindly and start responding with intention. That's the difference between suppression and transformation. That's the heart of spiritual wisdom. True spiritual awakening isn't about becoming endlessly calm. It's about becoming endlessly aware. It's the ability to pause before you project, to listen before you lash out, to hold your pain without letting it spill onto others. Anger doesn't destroy relationships. Unconscious anger does. When you carry years of silence, when you bury your truth, it eventually explodes. But when you acknowledge your fire with tenderness, it burns clean. It becomes clarity. It becomes the truth. It becomes the force that builds boundaries, not barriers. Most people don't want to sit with their anger. They want to escape it, suppress it, pray it away. But the escape becomes another cage. You cannot bypass what your soul has assigned as your next lesson. And in this season, anger may be that lesson. Emotional maturity is not about never being triggered. It's about recognizing the trigger, owning your reaction, and asking, what is this trying to teach me? What unmet need is crying out through this emotion? When you start seeing anger as a compass, not a curse, everything shifts. You become less reactive and more reflective. You stop giving your power to external chaos and start reclaiming it through inner clarity. In that space, you're not controlled by anyone. No one's words, looks, or silence can hijack your peace. You have your emotional sovereignty back. There is nothing more powerful than a person who is no longer afraid of their own fire. A person who doesn't run from their rage, but understands it. Who doesn't justify it, but listens. Who doesn't weaponize it, but transforms it. That is the mark of someone who is awakening. That is the path of spiritual depth. Not avoidance, not perfection, but presence. The courage to feel without being consumed. The wisdom to pause, reflect, and alchemize pain into self-respect. Anger is a doorway, and if you're willing to walk through it, not slam it shut, you'll find a part of yourself you've been waiting your whole life to meet. 2. The myth of the button pusher. People have no control over their emotions. When someone offends you, it's easy to believe that they are the problem. Their words, their attitude, their energy. But the truth, as Carl Jung taught, is far more revealing. You're not triggered by them. You're triggered by what's unhealed in you. What stirs your anger or discomfort is rarely about the person in front of you. It's about the unresolved pain, the buried beliefs, the emotional wounds you haven't yet faced. Their comment or behavior is just a match. The fire was already inside. This is spiritual wisdom in its rawest form. Because once you understand that your reactions are reflections of your inner state, everything changes. You stop trying to change the world to feel safe, and you start turning inward. That tightening in your chest, the spiral of thoughts, the heat behind your eyes, it's not just about what happened in the moment. It's about the version of you that never got to speak. The moment you were dismissed as a child, the time you were hurt and told to get over it. When you're emotionally hijacked, you're not really in the present. You're reliving the past, and it's begging to be seen. Most people want control. They want to feel calm, composed, unshaken by the world. So they chase strategies, deep breaths, boundaries, mantras, fake calm. But underneath all of it, the storm still swirls. Because control without awareness is just a temporary escape. Real freedom comes from integration. You don't need to silence the trigger. You need to listen to it. That discomfort is intelligence. That reaction is a messenger. It points to where your love hasn't yet reached. This doesn't mean you tolerate poor treatment or justify others' behavior. It means you take responsibility for your emotional world. It means you begin to ask different questions, not, why are they like this? But why does this hurt me so much? That shift is where power lives. That is where transformation begins. Instead of being pulled into someone else's chaos, you observe it and realize, this isn't mine to carry. That clarity doesn't come from intellectual understanding. It comes from doing the inner work, from facing what you were taught to avoid. Spiritual wisdom teaches that every trigger is sacred. It's an invitation to heal, not to blame. Every person who frustrates you is showing you something about yourself, your expectations, your wounds, your values, your boundaries. They are mirrors, not enemies. Their presence reveals where you are still reactive, still raw, still seeking wholeness through outside validation. But the moment you stop expecting the world to protect your wounds and instead begin to tend to them yourself, you become untouchable, not cold or detached, but centered, aware, and grounded in truth. To never be bothered again is not about building emotional armor. It's about building emotional clarity. You become less reactive not because you've numbed yourself, but because you've finally seen yourself. You understand what lives beneath your anger, what your sadness is trying to say, and what your silence is begging you to hear. And when you do that, when you meet your emotions with compassion instead of resistance, no one holds power over you. Do you recognize that the trigger isn't about them, but about your own healing? If this truth resonates with you, declare it in the comments. I choose to heal what's within me. 3. The shadow holds the key to emotional freedom. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's the gatekeeper to your emotional freedom. Carl Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. The things that trigger you, whether it's someone's loud voice, their emotional intensity, or their bold vulnerability, are often reflections of the very parts of yourself you were taught to suppress. You weren't born detached, guarded, or composed. You were trained to be that way. Somewhere along the line, being sensitive became a weakness. Being needy was seen as shameful. Expressing too much joy, anger, or desire was labeled too much. So you buried it. But what's buried doesn't die. It waits. It becomes part of your shadow. And when someone shows up in your life embodying the exact traits you've disowned, something inside you tightens. That tightening is the call. The anger isn't about them. It's about you, meeting the abandoned self. That's why integration, not avoidance, is the path to wholeness. You don't heal by deleting people who trigger you. You heal by asking, what in me is rising to be seen? A woman raised to be the strong one, always composed, may find herself irrationally annoyed by someone who cries openly. But her annoyance is actually her shadow saying, I once cried like that. I was shamed for it. I miss that part of me. Or a man who prides himself on being logical might judge someone deeply intuitive. But the judgment is a mirror showing him the part of his soul that once believed in feeling, but was taught to fear it. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness means reclaiming every part of you, even the messy, dramatic, impulsive, insecure fragments you've hidden. Triggers are sacred. They lead you to your unhealed places. Emotional freedom is not about being unbothered. It's about being deeply aware. When someone shakes your peace, they are not stealing your power. They are revealing where it was never stable to begin with. This is the invitation to stop reacting and start reflecting. Every emotional reaction is a doorway. The ones who trigger you are not villains. They are messengers. They mirror your inner work. They call you home to the self you lost while trying to be accepted. To be spiritually awake is not to float above pain, but to stand in it, breathe into it, and ask what it came to teach you. That's the shadow's gift. That's Carl Jung's timeless lesson. 4. Triggers are mirrors and teachers. The people who upset you the most are not random villains in your story. They are precise, intentional mirrors reflecting the unresolved parts of your inner world. That sting you feel when someone mocks you, ignores you, or challenges you. It isn't just about their behavior. It's a signal, a spotlight on the wound you've buried. Instead of asking, why are they like this? Which only traps you in blame, ask, what is this revealing about me? That question is the beginning of real emotional freedom. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's not just a quote, it's a map. When someone disrespects you and it infuriates you, maybe it's because deep down you've struggled with self-worth. When you feel rejected and your heart tightens, maybe it's echoing an old story where you weren't chosen. The emotion isn't the enemy. It's the invitation. It's not about controlling others. It's about integrating the parts of you that still hurt. If someone says something untrue about you and it rolls off your back, it's because there's no hook inside you for that comment to cling to. But if their words cut you deep, it means there's something inside you still uncertain, still afraid it might be true. That's where the mirror becomes a teacher. That's where spiritual awakening begins, not in the silence of meditation, but in the heat of everyday emotion. When you react without reflection, you give away your power. You become a puppet to someone else's words, moods, and projections. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you ask, what is this showing me? You take your power back. You move from emotional slavery to emotional mastery. That's the essence of spiritual wisdom. Not to avoid emotion, but to understand it, to decode it, to alchemize it. This isn't easy work. Blame is easy. Defense is easy. But healing requires awareness. It asks you to get honest about the stories you're still carrying, the roles you're still playing, and the identities you're still clinging to for safety. And it demands you rewrite them, not to please others, but to set yourself free. Your triggers are not flaws. They are sacred clues. They point you to the places in yourself still waiting to be loved, seen, and heard. Every irritation, every judgment, every emotional spiral is a message from your soul, not to harden you, but to soften you into truth. Because when you stop asking others to change and start doing the inner work, the world outside you begins to shift. You become less reactive, more grounded. You stop being hijacked by external chaos. You stop needing everyone to like you or agree with you. That is true liberation, not being untouched by life, but being unshaken by it. That is the spiritual awakening your soul has been craving. And it begins not with them, but with you. If this message resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another moment of self-discovery. Type in the comments, "I am ready to learn from every trigger and grow through it." 5. Emotional mastery is about integration, not suppression. Emotional mastery isn't about being unaffected. It's about being fully aware, about feeling every wave of emotion without letting it dictate who you become. You don't reach peace by ignoring your feelings or pretending they don't exist. You arrive at peace by understanding them so deeply that they no longer control you. Integration doesn't mean staying calm at all costs. It means letting every emotion rise and fall inside you while remaining anchored in your own center. That's not a weakness. That's wisdom. And it's the kind of spiritual wisdom that transforms your entire relationship with the world. When someone says something sharp, it's not their words alone that hurt. It's the memory, the wound, the story it reactivates within you. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your thoughts spiral, and in that moment, you have a choice. You can lash out, shut down, or distract yourself. Or you can pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to show me about myself? Carl Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's the invitation to stop running from your triggers and start listening to them. They're not curses, they're clues. Suppressing emotion is like holding a beach ball underwater. The more pressure you apply, the more forcefully it will erupt. But when you practice integration, you let the emotion surface, breathe, and pass. You don't identify with it. You observe it. You learn from it. You hold space for it without letting it take over. That's emotional sovereignty, not being immune to pain, but becoming so intimate with it that it can no longer blindside you. A woman once believed her strength came from being the calm one. She never cried in front of others, never got angry, always smiled. But inside, she carried years of unspoken grief and resentment. One day, after a simple conversation triggered her deeply, she didn't suppress it. She didn't perform calm. She sat with her rage, shaking, crying, breathing through it, and listened to what it was saying. It wasn't asking her to destroy anything. It was asking her to finally be honest. That moment didn't make her less peaceful. It made her real. From then on, her calm came from truth, not performance. True integration is when you stop splitting your emotions into good or bad, right or wrong. You recognize them all as parts of you messengers, not enemies. And in doing so, you stop being reactive and start being reflective. You're no longer tossed around by other people's energy because you've learned to anchor into your own. Your inner state becomes yours again, not something anyone else can steal. That's how you rise not above your emotions, but through them, not by pretending, but by integrating. And when you live this way, spiritual wisdom stops being a concept. It becomes the way you move through life steady, present, and deeply free. If this message speaks to your soul, repeat after me. I honor every emotion, and I choose integration over suppression. I am mastering my inner world with grace. 6. Self-worth comes from within, not others. You stop being reactive the moment you stop outsourcing your identity. As long as your sense of self-worth is built on the approval, validation, or recognition of others, you remain vulnerable to every shift in their mood, tone, or opinion. Carl Jung taught that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that journey begins when you no longer hand your power to others. Their words, their judgments, their silence, none of it should determine your value. When your self-worth is externally dependent, every interaction becomes a test. A raised eyebrow feels like rejection. A missed compliment feels like failure. But once you start drawing your identity from within, the game changes. You no longer live to be seen. You live to be aligned. You speak not to impress, but to express. Their approval becomes a bonus, not a requirement. And in that shift, you gain something priceless: inner freedom. Mia, a talented designer, used to live for validation. Her boss's comments shaped her mood, her confidence, her sleep. Every piece of feedback echoed louder than her own voice. But after immersing herself in healing work and Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom, she realized something profound about her boss wasn't the problem. Her dependency on external validation was. She stopped needing to be affirmed to feel worthy. She started creating from a place of self-trust, and in doing so, she reclaimed her peace. That's the power of individuation. According to Jung, it's the process of separating your authentic self from the false identities you've worn to survive identities like the people pleaser, the overachiever, or the one who's always agreeable. These masks may win praise, but they cost you your soul. When you release them, you don't become less connected. You become more whole. You don't lose compassion. You gain boundaries. Emotional sovereignty doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without collapsing. It means you hear someone's opinion without absorbing it into your self-definition. You can love people without needing their permission to feel whole. You can accept feedback without shrinking. And you can walk away from misunderstanding without needing to explain your worth. Carl Jung also reminded us that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So when someone's words sting, ask yourself, what part of me still believes them? What story inside me do they confirm? Often, their voice is just an echo of a wound that hasn't been seen yet. And healing doesn't always mean fixing it, it means integrating. You carry the pain? Yes, but now with wisdom. You see your triggers not as flaws, but as invitations. The moment you stop needing others to tell you who you are, their opinions lose weight. Your energy stops leaking. Your peace becomes steady. You become a mirror of strength, not because you force it, but because you remember it. When your identity is rooted within, you don't need to defend it. You embody it. And that is spiritual wisdom in motion. 7. True power is psychological sovereignty. Carl Jung called it individuation, the sacred path of becoming whole by owning every fragment of your inner world. You don't reach power by numbing your heart or silencing your soul. You arrive at true strength when the places that once bled have been tended to with such honesty and presence that they no longer cry out. You don't flinch when someone disapproves because you've already accepted the parts of you they're pointing at. You don't chase people who leave because you no longer abandon yourself. You don't over-explain because you've made peace with being misunderstood. This is not arrogance. This is what it feels like to be internally free. This freedom doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you're no longer ruled by everything. Anger, sadness, and pain still come and go, but they don't possess you. You don't react automatically. You don't spiral. Instead, you witness. You allow the emotion to rise and pass like a wave that no longer knocks you over, because the ocean within you is no longer chaotic. This is not cold detachment. It is warm awareness. It is spiritual wisdom in motion, the kind that says, I trust myself enough to feel everything without collapsing into anything. You become untouchable, not because you hide, but because you've healed. The judgment of others can no longer define you, because you've already looked your shadows in the eye and stayed. When someone criticizes, you pause not to internalize their words, but to ask, does this resonate with the truth I know in me? And if it doesn't, you release it. You don't carry every dart that's thrown your way. You've built inner walls made of clarity, not fear. You've stopped needing to convince anyone of your worth, because your being alone is the evidence. This kind of power cannot be faked. You can't pretend your way into sovereignty. No meditation trick, no affirmation repeated 1,000 times can replace the deep work of integration. Real peace is earned. It comes from sitting with discomfort until it no longer threatens you. It comes from witnessing your jealousy, your rage, your insecurity, not to judge or banish them, but to understand what they protect. And in that understanding, their grip loosens. That's when you realize it was never about silencing your emotions. It was about learning their language. You don't need to become harder to protect your heart. You need to become softer with yourself. Gentleness is not weakness when it's rooted in self-respect. Silence is not avoidance when it's chosen with discernment. Boundaries are not walls when they're drawn from love, not fear. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that we don't ascend by escaping life. We rise by descending into our own depths and learning how to hold ourselves through it. And so, the people who once triggered you become mirrors, not threats. Their judgments become reflections, not verdicts. Their leaving becomes redirection, not rejection. You no longer fear losing them because you've stopped losing yourself. This is what it means to live whole, not perfect, not unaffected, but rooted, clear, and profoundly free. If this message has stirred something deep within you, leave a comment of truth. I reclaim my power. I am whole, rooted, and free. Thank you for watching this video. Remember, true emotional invincibility doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you learn to master your inner world with awareness, patience, and strength. If this message resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos that will continue to guide your journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening.